Alrighty, so for week 7, you're going to do your next step on your decision making progress. So in this case, I'm going to give you a heads up. If I've mentioned anything you needed to specifically address before starting your step 2, okay, don't create the step 2 yet. Make sure you fix that in your step 1. And here's why. If it's not fixed by the time I look at it, it hurts you here in your grade. So I want you to be able to fix that. And that really is the hope that by having you turn it in early, you get the feedback and can fix that. But I'm just giving you the heads up here. You got to do that or it will continue to impact you here. Okay, so I did give you a required commit message here. You could be more specific about what you fixed if you had possibly more than one issue. Okay, so make sure you do that. So here's the instruction. I already have them up. And in this case, we're creating a new folder in that same folder, the My App folder. Okay, so create your new folder, the step 2. Okay, within that, just like you did at the same level as your W1, and then copy all your files from your step 1 into your new step 2 folder, and then close any. And this is really because this caught me before where I had files open from step 1. So make sure you close those and open your step 2 to begin. Now, one of the things I will often do is just open that folder so it doesn't get confusing to me. So now do a commit here so that you can get started. So in this case, we're going to make this app more real by implementing local storage, rendering the history of your decisions. So we've structured the test to test along the way. So in this case, one of the things as we left off on step 1 that we didn't do was we had returned the object from the decision. So, and now in attendance, you've upgraded that decision, which is awesome. And so you just need to create that new entry and then combine your inputs and your decision. Now, in this case, your inputs would be whatever you've called it. Like as example, we called it form data, and then whatever you've called your decision, your return object. And then we're adding that unique ID and we're adding that timestamp into there. Okay. Then push that new object into whatever your array is, right? And then console log it, whatever that is. Now I've called it my name here, my data. So it's really whatever you've called it for your app specific, right? So expand on the console, make sure you see the ID, the timestamps, the inputs, and the decision properties. Okay. And then do a commit here. So in this case, we're also going to do like we did in the carbon footprint, what we've been calling render results. Now, if you did this in step 1, all you really have to do here is rename the file in the import and handle the difference in the file name. Because I want you to call it UI.js. That's the module you're going to create. Okay, so if you've had it, just rename it. If not, create a new one, right? Do that, export the function, the render decision, and again, refer back to the results display that we did in the carbon footprint. And then inside select the DOM elements. Now your DOM element selections are happening inside of the global of the UI.js, okay? And then reference the decision output. And then import that into your app.js, call it and handle it inside of form handler. Now there may be more you're doing here. Matter of fact, there's probably some helper functions to make your output. Well, actually, no, and not in this case, it'd be in the table, right? So then some more, make your form, make sure it shows up. So just to show you, like for mine here, right? I've already, if I hit which workout, this is the UI, or what we've called in the past the results displayed, right? Now we'll get to this part in a minute, but in this case, right, I've given each factor, the day factor, the outside, and then the decision, right? So again, making sure that as we upgraded our decision object, that we now have more data to display on the table, or sorry, on the just the section here. Okay, so now you have a commit message here. So now in this step, all you're going to do is create that output in the HTML. Now you can again refer back to how we did this, but it's the same concept, and there probably was some CSS here. I would say grab as well. So that's where it's helpful to go back to the steps that we did in the code along to grab that stuff. Okay, so ultimately all you're building on this step is just the table itself. Okay, all right, so let me go back here. Nope, go back here. All right, so in this case, yeah, so this is just the HTML to have in there, and then add in your history ID, right? So it's critical to add the actions, right? So in this case, the actions will add when we actually create the table, but this is just the heading that, and again, this just shows up in your HTML. You just want to make sure you can view it. Okay, so there should be no data in here, right? They're just add to the empty body an ID of the history list, or you can call it something specific to your app, would make sense as well. Now, because there was a little bit of confusion and a question, I always like to clear it up if I can. But if you're going to take a break, and you can at this point, so if you take a break, what you need to do is make sure you've pushed all your code to GitHub, right? And then go into here and submit it. Now, I'm not in that place, but you have a submit, and you can submit the URL. Now, what I will do is I will go in and I will look at the work that you've done, and I'll give you any feedback. And that's actually the idea, is that you get some work done, you get a feedback, and then you can submit this with a little more time. But the sooner you submit things, the sooner I can give you feedback. Okay. Now, the other thing is submit it into GitHub, into Canvas, and then add a comment that says taking the break will finish by Thursday morning. Okay. So now what you're going to do is you're going to do that data store. Okay. So now this is we've done local storage a couple times, but I've given you a file name. I want you to specify a constant. Now, again, I've said my data is a generic. Use your app specific here. You're going to write a function, save to ls, local storage, stringify, save to the local storage. Again, that code we've gone over, and it is available to you to look at. Okay, but you want to name it specific for what I'm doing. And in this case, get from local storage, right? And if it doesn't find anything, it returns that empty array, which is where we saw the ternary operator. Then connect it into your app.js, making sure you're placing it correctly so that it also loads on page, right? So in this case, I have some items in here, so I should see it when I load a new page, and then when I submit a form submission, I should see it there as well. Now, we're not to the table render yet, but in this case, you can just use the console to see that is indeed in there. Okay. Okay, so now back here, right? So that's a local storage light. So open, right? So in this case, I could go over to apps and I could look at, yep, there is my object, and I can see it is changing. So in this case, it's in local storage, and I can see what's being saved in there. Okay. All right, so then you have a commit for this, and now you're going to do the table renderer, right? So this is creating that module, right? And so here's your, now again, this is not like step by step. This is the things you need to make sure you've done, which is to export a render table function. If you wanted to call it something specific with your app, just make sure that's what it's doing. Select your body, clear the HTML, and the reason clear the inner HTML, right? So what happens is every time you submit, you're clearing that inner HTML so you can re-render that table. Okay, and then loop through the data, right, and build your TR with the TD specific. And you can see where we did this. So we created, this is document create element ID. This is the TD. These are the columns themselves. And then at the end, make sure you add this, because this is important. We're going to need this for something we'll do, of course, in a future step. And then append them into the T body. Okay. So now connect all this up in your app.js, render table, update the init to call the render table whatever your global array of objects are, update your handle form submission, right, and make sure everything works, right? So this is where I was just showing you on mine. I should be able to hit which workout. I should see that listed here, and on a refresh, I should see that listed as well. And if I'm checking my local storage, I could get rid of in my app that local storage, hit refresh. And of course, I also have, and actually this is not on the instruction, but we will do it in a future one. For mine, I had already done it, which is the clear all save data. But you don't have to do that for this one. And so I'm showing you how to do it the manual way if need be. Okay. right, so that's the instruction. Those are the commits you need to make. Again, if you at this point are still troubleshooting, making sure everything works, just give me some commits. And that's what I was saying here. So you get 35 points. Did you do the required commits? And it should be do they align with the instruction steps? Okay, so what I do is when I look at your work, I look at your commits. So as an example, I will look at the commit. Let's just go back to the first one, right? So I will look at the first one. So on this commit, I should see the work that you did here. Now, you still may have to work on some code later if you had some issues here, but I should see what the work that you've done in this part. And by the way, the part of the reason I do it this way is to help you make sure you have an understanding of, hey, when I'm asked to do, push the object into a global array, I'm asked to console log, am I asked to submit it? Can I put all that together and get the code to do it? Okay. So 35 points for that. And I say here, once you get the required done, this is what I was talking about, you can add commits for specific issues you needed to fix, okay? Then make sure you're using the carbon footprint as a guide, because really that is our guide for what we're building here. And it's not that you're supposed to copy it over, it's the idea that you can use that as a guide to help you write the code in here, okay? And 55 points for did your code function and output correctly to the page, right? And did you submit the correct URL for step 2? Okay. So in this, I added the late policy just because it is there, but I definitely recommend using late passes here so that you can benefit from them. And as I said before, on the instruction, I do give that ability to take a break if you've kind of at this point you want to be able to take that break here before you start into the next section. Okay, hope this helps you understand what you need to do for this one.